官邸離陸時と地産を総理が8名を伴いこれより立川へ。
Hello!
Hello!
Just a quick word before we really get started on this episode, just a quick addendum to what you're about to see. We were meant to have this out a bit earlier than we are.
Just a smidge.
Just a tiny bit. It was meant to be out around Christmas. And maybe a week after would have been fine. Not now. But it's not because we were lazy. There are plenty of reasons. For one, Christmas was cancelled. What else?
We both got made redundant, so that hasn't been fun. We potentially had COVID, but we're all clear for that, so yay!
By the way, the test sucks. I never want to have to rub anything dry on my tonsils again. What else happened? The computer we use for our audio, that started fucking up and malfunctioning, so this might be the last thing you see for us for a bit.
Yep.
What else?
I go to college, but that obviously got cancelled, so there's been a lot of kind of homeschooling involved, so there's that.
Yeah.
We've just been feeling a bit unmotivated, a little bit down, as I'm sure everyone is, but
yeah,
here we are.
Just a bit of depression, and to make matters worse, we watched Cats.
It's a curious cat.
We didn't help ourselves.
No.
We regret it now.
But we're here now. It's finally getting made. It's finally coming out. So we hope you all we just wanted to warn that if you really, for all you eagle-eyed viewers, there might be a couple of signs. Just if you really pay attention.
Every now and then.
This was meant to be out around Christmas time. But with all that in mind, please enjoy.
Hello, we're back and it's Christmas!
Back once again with the Renegade Masters. D4 Downer, power to the people. Back
We're
once
coming at
again
you
with the
this time
Renegade
with that-
Master. D4
Bubs.
down with the ill behavior. Back once again with the
Bubs.
Renegade Master. D4
Bubs.
down, power to the people. Back once again with the Renegade Master. D4 down with the...
And we're coming at you without a 6-month delay this time. Isn't that right, baby? Oh yeah. Fucking batteries.
Back once again with the Renegade Master. D4 down, power to the people. Back once again with the Renegade Master. D4...
Okay, I think that's it. Can you still hear it?
No, I think if it plays any longer, we have to pay royalties to the Fat Boy estate.
So you're gonna behave?
I guess I have to.
Good, because you're turning this thing into a real 2020.
Well, because I want to bring a little... fuck it. No, it doesn't matter. Continue.
Okay, for all this time, we're back.
Back once again with the Renegade Master. D4 down, power to the people. Back once again.
Ow! That hurt!
And we're back! We're looking at 2020 and the year gone by with the media of the before times. We thought we'd get this out before 2020 reaches its final form and really fucks your shit up. And what are we doing this week?
It's Godzilla! Now, before we get started, and I promise we're not going to do this again,
Never again.
but we're just going to drop a little spoiler warning here before we properly get into the video.
But just this once. Anything more than that would be insulting.
Fuck yeah, I mean, half the movies we're doing are older than we are.
What are we going to do? Pop in a spoiler warning for Jaws?
A movie with tropes so cliched that becomes standardized hyper-capitalist policy? No.
So to regularly pop in spoiler warnings wouldn't just be a waste of our time, but yours as well.
And we'd never want to waste your time.
Never.
I mean, the genuine sorrow, the remorse, the fucking anguish we would feel if we felt that we were wasting your time.
We would rather fall on our swords with our tail between our legs than ever think that any audience, especially ours, time was being wasted.
Especially intentionally wasted.
Especially intentionally wasted. Listen, we here at Dinner and Movie promise.
The point is, if you haven't seen Shin Godzilla, please stop this video, go find it.
Seek it out, go watch it and come back to us. Unless confusing Japanese copyright laws do their dirty dance, we're still going to be here.
We just want you to have the purest experience possible with this film, because it is a phenomenal movie.
Not just a great Godzilla film, but an amazing motion picture in and itself.
We found parts of it hugely moving, not just in a wordplay, pun-like way, but it's jaw-dropping.
We've both thought about it every day since we watched it.
So if there's even a little chance you'll watch Shin Godzilla, please go do that first.
But if you do, make sure you watch the sub and not the dub. Funimation fucked it.
Oh my god, Funimation! How do you so consistently destroy art?
Like, is it a secret agenda? Do you hate storytelling?
But to get back on track, spoilers for Shin Godzilla.
Now, we've spoken a lot this year about the horrendous handling of the pandemic situation by the UK, the US, other countries like
Switzerland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Turkey and Greece, Poland, Romania, Scotland, Albania, Ireland, Russia, Oman, Bulgaria, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Cyprus, Iraq and Iran.
But it's important to remember that's not the only example we've seen on the global stage.
Not everyone was using the death of thousands to line their pockets with cash.
Some countries were even able to handle it competently.
Admirably, even. If you look at the capability of New Zealand and the rigorousness of Taiwan,
Yeah, we can still have a little bit of faith in the world around us. So, in honour of everyone who learned to share and care this year, picture the scene.
there are rumblings, whispers in the air. There's a threat approaching. Now this reaches the government ears long before it reaches the rest of the population.
Bam! Suddenly we start hearing official reports coming in from overseas. Sudden spikes of activity, possible casualties, and no sign of things just slowing down.
Not only that, but there is huge plumes of blood dripping into the underground. It's knocking over cars and getting into crevices. It's like The Shining, but there's no ghost in sight.
Babe, it's just stuff relevant to 2020. I know it's been bad, but
Fuck. Yeah, okay. Well, at first the government is unsure how to respond or whether they should even be responding at all.
and in terms of handling things, it's a bit of an unprecedented fucking situation. What would you do?
And that's it. There's a difference between making a few mistakes and acting with intent to benefit yourself at the expense of the public.
All that vocal fry.
What a
and everything.
cunt.
And so they do whatever's possible. They act like adults and gather whatever info they can ASAP.
At first, they're looking to handle the situation with the light touch, with fears growing in the ranks that any action too drastic might damage the economy.
Those willing to sound louder alarms and act from a neutral place rather than a financially invested one are told to hush up for the sake of careers and keeping the status quo.
Similarly, you often see government agents unwilling to put their name to things and take responsibility, or even embrace out-of-the-box thinking.
Everything is according to procedure, and rigorously so, even though said procedures have no bearing on what the fuck's actually going on outside.
However, they soon get conclusive evidence of a real and present danger, and their approach quickly shifts.
Suddenly, like a buck bureaucratic buckaroo, the government springs into action. Real action, not just meeting after meeting. Their country's in danger and they have to do something.
Yet they have citizens to protect, and having seen enough carnage for one lifetime, the death of even one more would be one too many.
Especially if it's by their own incompetence. They already fucked up. They didn't take it seriously when it first appeared, and they know the longer the science, the reality is now ignored, the worse it's going to be.
避難指示が発令されました。住民の方は直ちに避難してください。
So they're taking it fucking seriously, and likewise the population are playing ball. They're cooperating.
They're not trying to forge this dangerous, stupid fucking rebellion, pushing back just because they can feel themselves being pushed.
Instead, they're willing to work in tandem with the government, massively upending their lives willingly.
Because they know the government's doing its best to protect them. And by that, we mean, you know,
Not doing things that are making people constantly suspicious and act irrationally and go against the advice of the experts.
yeah, that.
に至ると思われますので、どうかご安心ください。繰り返します。巨大不明生物の上陸はありえませんので、都民国民の皆様、どうかご安心ください。
総理、会見中に失礼します。
え、蒲田に？
So the population are ready and willing to assist. to protect themselves, each other, and their country.
And the government folk work as quickly as they can, but they're often hampered by outdated bureaucracy and prohibitive legislation.
You see, they're not alone in this world. Someone else basically got to set all the rules.
America?
America.
And when you know there's a bunch of blood-hungry maniacs on the other side of those launch buttons...
2 of which have already been pressed, mind you. It can be a little tough to push back when they start laying down legislature that fucks you over a bit.
Gives you the raw end of the deal.
The short end of the stick.
The warm side of the pillow.
The end of the metaphors.
Just US Japan. So, win-win.
Understood. Let's get to it.
Thank you.
Back to Gozal 19, who is still trying to fuck shit up. The government start internally working on a serum to defeat the monster.
Sciencey shit. It's experimental as hell, but the situation is kinda new. Experimental's the best you're gonna get.
Point is, they wanted to stop the threat in its tracks, but without the wanton destruction.
Or as we like to call it,
Herd immunity. So despite the fact the plan to save the day is already in motion, they get pressured by bigger, more powerful nations.
They want them to act in ways that could be catastrophic for their own citizens, just to get things back to normal for the rest of the world.
You see, they're scared and detached from humanity just enough to be happy to watch millions of people die as long as their money empires don't take the teeniest bit of a hit.
For a hell of a lot of the country, going out for a few pints and eating either elsewhere at a restaurant or at home is just the way you live life.
Cunt!
But the government resists. They buy themselves time and do whatever they can to solve the problem before they are literally nuked for the sake of American businesses.
So they fight smart, finish their plan, and in the end they're all the better for it. They can embrace again without fear.
No, for real, they can actually hug there again now. Like this. Remember this? Remember that? Happy Christmas. And maybe the real Godzilla was the friends we made along the way. What a fucking movie!
Such a good movie.
Like, you loved it.
I
which
did.
is...
Which I hate to say because he said I would, and I was like, no, I'm not going to watch this. I refuse, and I did. I loved it.
I said you might. I was willing to just give this a shot anyway because I'd heard so many good things. Like, it won... It swept the fucking Japanese Academy Awards. But I had no guarantee that you would even like this film, and you loved it.
I loved it. We've now watched it twice in the last 3 months.
Well, we've watched the version which deserved to win an Academy Award,
which was
once.
the original.
And then we've also watched the Funimation dub, which we had to look up online before we started recording this, and Shin Godzilla is currently at 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Which I cannot actually believe. I mean, the shit I have seen on IMDb that has higher ratings and stars than that
I know.
is ridiculous.
Like, the idea that this has... I love Star Wars. The idea that this has lower ratings than, fucking anything but Empire is heartbreaking to me. Like, that...
Yeah, no. I mean, I can't really say anything against it. I really was dubious. But, I was won over.
It can be a lot to take on. The actual presentation of the film, there's a lot of subtitles as well as who people are, just little intro graphic.
Yeah, this is not one you watch if you just want an easy watch. You have to pay attention, you have to be involved, and you have to be watching it. But it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. I remember being sat there next to you, and there's certain points, and I'll drop a little spoiler warning, because holy shit.
There are gonna be some spoilers.
The point where Godzilla fucking opens up the neck bit and does the atomic breath, and it just goes on for so long. But it was genuinely emotionally moving.
Yeah, no, it was creepy and terrifying and moving and just awe-inspiring all at once.
Jaw-dropping.
Like the score that goes with it, and just
if you've seen a Marvel movie or any of the DC stuff or any of that, nothing compared to this fucking moment. Like, stuff gets destroyed so quickly and easily in those movies, and it's all, like, the ramifications are never really thought of. But this one, it's just that's all there is. There's no other monster to fight. There's no fucking, like, there's no guy who's gonna put on an Iron Man suit and take on Godzilla on his own. It's just fucking... It's just destruction and horror.
Yeah, this is the thing, like, it's a Godzilla movie, so I can't sit here and say it's so real, but it is so real. It's what you would imagine if, God forbid, I mean, 2020, 2021, let's hope it doesn't go a step further, but if this happened, this is the reality of what we would see, and it's tense. And it just reminded me, especially the first, I say spoiler words, but the first, like, 45 minutes, it reminded me of watching, like, tsunami news feeds and things like that. It was genuinely horrific.
Well, a lot of it is based on... It's a reaction to actual Japanese disasters. Like, you had the key one is the 2011 Fukushima earthquake, and the was there a tidal wave in that as well?
Yeah, and there was like a nuclear fallout from that, because obviously it hit the power plant.
Yeah. So
all of these things feed back, and knowing that as you watch it just makes it all the more effective.
And like the visual effects are so effective at that, because I mean, I've seen the guy who co-directed and oversaw the visual effects. What's his name? Yeah, Shinji Higuchi. He did a couple of other live action movies, and they're not great. But his effects are always decent enough. But there's just less like emotional resonance there, whereas here, like, it can't, like, they're so good you can't help but be reminded of all this stuff that you've genuinely seen in the news, and it makes for some fucking you shudder while you're watching it.
It's uncomfortable in places just because it is so realistic. It is like, but totally worth it. I mean, there are still some points about it that are a bit like the American Japanese ladies.
Yeah, if your immersion is going to be broken at any point during this, it is from the character Kyoko Ann Patterson. Who is supposed to have been American born.
Yep.
She's a member of the American government and is there to like carry out negotiations or due to like all the red tape bureaucracy that was set up after World War II. And she is meant to have lived in America all her life, basically, and cannot speak a word of English.
No, not a word. But it's a small negative in what is like a really great movie, but it is there, and it is like, oh, just charge him a little bit through the film.
That's it. Like, it wouldn't have mattered so much, but they make her speak. They do make her speak English, despite the fact she can't. And
yes, I'd forgotten that. I had forgotten that part.
我々も解析を試みます。よろしいですね。
Sure.
there's bits where she'll be talking fluently in Japanese to one of the main characters, and then she'll be like, okay, yeah, killerific or some shit, you know what I mean? Like,
tubular, dude.
yeah. It's but you can tell, like, with admittance to the writing and even the performance outside of having to learn a second language, like, you can tell the instant she comes in that she is not meant to be, at the very least, from this world.
No.
Like, if not, just not Japanese. Because she is the brashest fucking thing in the movie, and, like, she captures, at the very least, the American
essence.
spirit.
Yeah, the American essence is there.
Even if the English language is far, far away.
Yeah.
But, like, honestly, all good performances.
Yeah.
The lead guy, I can't remember the
Is
actor's name.
Rando
is
Yaguchi?
Yeah, Rando Yaguchi is the character's name. My personal favorite is the president at first.
Yeah.
I think he's great. He has a really, like, softly funny but very understandable, softly funny in a satirical sense, but you really, like, empathize with him.
Yeah, no, 100%. You see this guy, just be like, great, what now? What do I do now?
He has a great, like, fucking... He does, like, fucking Tim from The Office faces for about half the movie, but, like, there's so much more earned than anything in The Office, you know what I mean?
Oh.
Like, you see him just sat there, like...
It's just what any of us would be in that situation, and you get to see a government that, although they're being, like, ambushed with this situation they have no idea how to deal with, they go about it with empathy. They try. They do their best. And that's why you watch it and you're like, okay, they make some mistakes, but, you know, they're doing their best. And in just hindsight of what we've dealt with in the last year, it's yeah.
Well, that was the interesting thing watching this, because it's meant to be, like, all the government stuff, to a point, like, it's respectful satire, and no one's presented as, like, the evil fucking bureaucrat who just wants the money and blah blah blah. But there are, like, more realistic things there, and to watch it this year and then go back and find out that it's meant to be like a proper, like, satire of people just moving from office to office, as opposed to fucking doing anything. I could have understood that a lot more if we hadn't seen genuine governments react way worse than the satire to a crisis.
We thought it was funny. No, it's not.
No, it's not funny at all. But there's there's so many fucking great scenes. Like, we've already mentioned the midway point.
It's like operatic. That's the only thing I could describe. It is that big. It is that just full of emotion, and yeah, it's amazing. That was my favourite scene, without a doubt.
There's a stark contrast between that and the earlier scenes of what, like, the early Godzilla.
Yeah, Baby
or as
Godzilla.
The internet has called him Kamata-kun.
Just Baby Godzilla. Baby Godzilla.
He's Kamata-kun. But those scenes are equally fucking hilarious and unsettling.
And terrifying. Like, I have a thing about tsunamis and the sea anyway. So, watching these really realistic just scenes at the beginning, not fun for me at all.
Yeah, you curled up into an actual...
There was no... I was like, no, I don't want to see this.
Your knees were becoming your own defense against the water, you know what I mean?
Because that will help me. But, yeah, no, it wasn't fun for me. But it was worth it.
It's so good. Like, everything just hits you in the right way with this movie. Like, again, the performances are great. The visual effects, they're not perfect all the time, but they really just fucking sell it, and the money was put into the right places.
It works. Like, I know there are parts of it, it's not amazing. Like, it's not like you said earlier, Marvel level or anything like that, but it just is more effective. It makes it more real in a way.
But that's it. Like, they took their time, and it's slow, and Marvel's trash. In terms of...
We love Marvel, by the way.
We do. But in terms of, like, actual empathy or anything like that, it's kind of trash. Whereas this, it just hits so deep and honestly and hard. Like, you see people, like, fucking break down over the loss of, like, a couple lives. A couple. And that's enough. That should be enough. It's not... Like, we are not statistics, we are human beings, you know what I mean? And this film just truly embraces that, like, whilst you are seeing it mainly from people in locked away rooms, these are government officials, but there is a genuine empathy for the people on the ground. Yeah,
there's the link to the public. It's not like they are a separate entity. As long as they're okay, that's fine. And we're saying this is realistic, but we know that is not the case. There's no government out there that's going to be crying over the loss of a couple of people. We've seen that, but it feels more real.
Like, the original Godzilla has a lot more time spent on the street with your average...
Street.
On the street.
On the street.
With Godzilla.
Godzilla.
And this movie doesn't need that, because you know, your government should be your average citizens. They're not tyrannical, or you hope they're not tyrannical fucking overlords who don't give a shit about you and are just trying to protect the economy. And it still makes you feel.
Yeah.
It makes you feel so much. So much. The soundtrack's great.
Yeah, no, I already mentioned the score's amazing.
Like, it uses both old Godzilla music and new original stuff, and on both cards is fucking perfect. Like, that opera singing, like you said, during the mass destruction scene is, like, that sells that moment so hard.
Oh yeah, no, just the score, as I said earlier, was just, it sells it completely. It's pitch perfect throughout the whole film, in my opinion, and especially for that scene in particular.
Yeah, there are a couple of odd choices, like, but I think they still work. Like, there's a couple of bits with, like, heavier guitar and stuff like that toward the end of the movie, which, like, honestly, the film had just gotten us so utterly enamored with it by that point that we did not give a fuck. I can see why some people might find it jarring, though. Yeah, like, the only flaws I could really say it has is towards the end.
I mean, I'm refusing to admit there were any flaws.
You're a Goji groupie, I love it.
I know, I love this film. I did love it.
Yeah. And having been watching other Godzilla films, because I've been watching Mystery Science Theater lately, and they have a couple of, like, the Toho era monster fight ones where Godzilla is meant to be friend of Japan and he's like fucking waving on camera and he's like, yeah, I'm Godzilla, and it's fucking stupid. As much as those films have some really great model work and guy in rubber suit work and all this other stuff, it just reminds you how powerful something like this as a storytelling device can be, and just fucking so rarely is.
Alright, dig this. Oh, and it's a hit to center field. Godzilla grabs it. He throws it to first.
You haven't seen many Japanese monster movies, but you've seen
No.
like King Kong.
I don't have
like...
a huge frame of reference for Godzilla at all, to be fair. I hadn't even seen the American one until we'd already watched Shin Godzilla, I think. So, yeah.
Wait,
I went
which
in
one?
on the best one. Matthew Broderick.
Oh, the 98 Godzilla.
Yes.
I tell you what, we'll watch the 2014 one, which I...
Oh, no, I have seen that one too. I just forgot because it's boring as fuck.
It is boring as fuck. And that's it, like, there's no need to really, like, that film was desperate not to show you Godzilla. This film is fine with it. But it just allows Godzilla to be what fucking Godzilla is, a terrifying force of nature that you can't fucking stop. Like, there's no need to put a different monster there, which is gonna fight and destroy more buildings that way. There's no reason to fucking have all these bullshit, actually irrelevant, because that is ultimately what the human characters in that film and a lot of these fucking movies boils down to, is that, like, there's no reason to be seeing this story from their angle, because they don't die, they usually don't suffer any great loss, and they're just there. They're there as an eye on the ground, and you don't need that. Like, Godzilla is terrifying, as proved by this fucking movie. There's so many bits in the design which are just actually chilling in a weird way, in a way that you don't see. Like, obviously I just mentioned the happy-go-lucky Godzilla, but even in ones which are really trying to do more with the concepts and present him as more of a malicious force, they rarely do this much with regard just the very design of Godzilla.
Yeah. And the stages it goes through, which is... I think that's what it is. It is a force of nature. That there is no evil intent in Godzilla. It is just what it is. It's not setting out to destroy things. It's just, this is what happens, and that's why it's so effective.
That's the true terrifying bit, is you can't You can't reason with it, and you can't send a little metal robot who's going to perform sign language, which is something I really genuinely saw the other day. You can't send Jet Jaguar down to fucking like give him a couple of pointers as to where he should go and fight a thing. No, it's a beast, and it's one who can't even like process the idea that you're anything above a germ. Like the size of the thing, you know, like you are smaller than an ant to him. So the idea that you're going to have any palpable effect on it is so silly. And I think that makes the ending effective as well, because they have to, in order to deal with this thing, they have to really reappraise where they're coming from. You can't shoot this thing down. Like, you can bombard it with fucking nukes, and all you do is make it angry and lasery. Like, the only way to beat it is to think like a fucking germ, and bring it down from the inside. And that's what they do. And I was reading out some of the other horrible reviews to you before we started doing this, and there was one from the AV Club that seemed to criticize it for not having some lone wolf badass come out and defeat the monster at the end, and how it was actually, you know, it's just shocking for Western audiences aren't used to seeing a collaborative team effort executed well as a solution to a movie. And maybe that's the problem.
It's a very effective end, if not most exciting, but it suits the movie that it was.
And more than that, like, it's so representative of the way that they're able to use Japan as a whole in aid of defeating it, and how Japan can really all like come together and deal with whatever. Like, it's a very uplifting movie in a lot of ways, despite
the intense devastation.
Like, it's, but again, we were genuinely like fucking. I can't remember the last movie we sat through, especially one that isn't. Like, we watched Soul, and Soul was like pretty fucking emotional, right? But like. And like, we loved Soul. It said something. It was intelligent, and it actually tried out to go out and do a thing. But when a movie just fucking catches you completely off guard and does that same shit, and it's from a genre that you're so used to just being shat on. Or to be a joke. It's something worthy of fucking riffing over in like a mystery science theatre sense. It's that much more powerful when it lands and just really affects you. So what would you rate? Do we do ratings?
We've never done ratings.
I think we did last time.
I don't remember doing ratings.
I remember distinctly giving Jaws a 10 out of 10.
I think it was an official rating score.
But I'm going to give Shin Godzilla a 10 out of 10. Not even as a reflection of 2020 or the pandemic or anything like that, but just as a fucking movie, it's top notch and deserves a lot more love than it seems to be getting. Yeah,
definitely. Like, I love this movie. I don't know if I'd say 10 out of 10 for anything, because that's perfection. But it was pretty fucking close.
Where would you put it?
I'd say 9.
9?
I'm just gonna err on the side of caution and say 9.
I give a lot of 10s in my life. Like, if I love you, I love you. You know what I mean? Like, I rarely give stuff. my ratings will rarely venture lower than a 6. If I give you a 6, I really hated you. Which, granted, is not a great one. I might as well just do a 4-star system. But, like, genuinely, like, we can't fucking praise this movie enough.
Yeah.
Just go watch it, go find it. It's on Blu-ray. Definitely don't watch the Funimation version. Watch the original audio with subtitles. It's a lot, but it's worth it.
Definitely. 10 out of 10 from me. Well, 9 out of 10.
Old Godzilla was hopping around Tokyo City like a big playground when old Godzilla burst from the shade and hit Godzilla with a bat grenade. Godzilla got pissed and began to attack, but didn't expect to be blocked by Godzilla, who proceeded to open up a can of Godzilla when old Godzilla came out of the blue and he started beating up old Godzilla. Then they both got flattened by old Godzilla, but before he could make it back to the Godzilla, old Godzilla popped out of his grave and took an